Welcome back to the Elle-Sera podcast. And today I've got Kate Rowe-Ham. Hi, Kate.
Hi there. How are you doing?
I'm great. So we briefly met, and I actually didn't know it was you at the time because I've followed you for ages. I was just telling you this. I've followed you for ages, even when you had like 3,000-4,000 followers. And I was like, oh, I love her message. She's all about exercise in menopause and the importance of building muscle. I've not really seen anyone go hell to leather on that. For ages on Instagram, like the importance of building muscle when you are an older lady. And I have said this till I'm blue in the face on this podcast. I say to every woman, if you are over the age of 35, you must be resistance training.
Yeah, totally.
Non-negotiable. So then when I saw you, I was like, okay, great. I need to get her on the podcast. Since then, you have exploded onto the scene and everyone's kind of jumping on the bandwagon, including Joe Wicks. You did an interview with him, which must have been great PR.
Yeah, that was good.
And you've written your own book. So we've got loads of stuff to cover. But I just wanted to start with kind of going back to that. What are kind of the myths around exercise and menopause?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question and one that's really important because I think so many women find themselves at this life stage and they don't actually realise that they are perhaps in perimenopause. And they might already be fit, they might already have a love of exercise and they're doing all the things they used to do, but it just stops working. And I think what I see a lot of women do is they begin to sort of go back to maybe things that served them in their 20s and their 30s by over-exercising.
Extreme dieting.
And under-eating.
Yeah.
And, we know that is not what we need to be doing in midlife, but I think that the myth is that predominantly is the way that this demographic of women at the moment navigating menopause have been brought up to believe that sort of the more we do, that's going to help us reach those goals. And equally, I think we have to, which I do talk about in the book, reframe what our goals are when we come to this life stage. Like for so many women, it's always been about exercise, is always about the aesthetic benefits, myself included. Like I have had a very colourful past of trying pretty much every diet under the sun, and then that magic, like, got to do a treadmill or go out on the streets and run for an hour because if it's not an hour, it's not going to work. And, what we know now is you can do short, fast, effective workouts. They don't necessarily have to be HIIT because, again, that can raise your cortisol levels. But lifting weights, and you can get a really lovely workout in 30 to 40 minutes. So I guess that's another kind of myth, out there that we have to be exerting ourselves for long periods of time. And I think I would love every woman to know that wherever she is at the moment, if she's listening to this and she is in that perimenopause phase, that it is never too late to start. And I think that's another myth that needs to be, kicked away, is that you can build muscle after the age of 35. I am the strongest and the fittest that I have been heading into my late 40s.
I love that message. I 100% agree with you. As soon as I'd had my baby 15 months ago, first thing I did was like, I'm going to go weight training. I need to build that strength back up. My core's obviously gone. And again, your hormones are wild. And I was like, more than ever, I need to be resistance training. Now, today, 15 months later, I'm the strongest I've ever been in my life. And now my goal is, not aesthetics, because actually aesthetics are a byproduct of that. But that's not what I focus on anymore. It's you'll thank yourself when you're 80 and beyond at this.
Well, that's what I sort of talk a lot about. I want to be able to move independently for as long as possible. And I guess kind of one of my defining moments at talking about what I'm doing, as well as, having done it for a long time, was actually when my dad got his diagnosis of pancreatic cancer. And he was actually given 8 to 10 weeks to live. He was a very fit, healthy man. He loved being outdoors, was a sailor. And he survived for 18 months. So I got 18 months with him. And I just think that actually what we have to remember is that if we were to get any diagnosis of chronic disease, if we were to have a diagnosis of osteopenia, or cardiovascular disease or anything like that, I mean, we wouldn't get that if we were fit and strong. But if we did, you're going to be in a better place to fight that diagnosis. And that is kind of what I want people to also take away from conversations like this. It's not about the aesthetics, it's about that longevity, but it's also about, should something, sadly be diagnosed, you've got a better chance of coming back.
It's just so hard to kind of drill this into people. I mean, I try and drill this into people who are the nearest and dearest around me. And it's just like, they don't care. It's like they just don't care. And I'm talking girls who are younger than me. And I'm like, it's not just about the weight on the scale, right? Please, because they're just like, oh, I'm just going to go for a run. And I'm like, actually, I think you should go resistance training, or, just go walking. Let's just go walking. And it's always for aesthetics. And I just want them to switch their mindset up sometimes. And even if you're the 30s, switch that mindset up. You need to be in the best health. Personally, I think you need to be in the best health at any point in your life.
Yeah.
So that you are more balanced hormones, diet is better, you're clear of mind.
It's hard though, right? It's hard. I've got, 14, 17 and obviously 7. And I know that sort of the conversations, I'm really mindful of the conversations I have. I just want them to try and have like takeouts, because again, they're not going to listen if I sort of drum on about it. But when I think back to my late 20s, 30s, I suppose I had my first child at 30. Again, I just wanted to lose that weight, get it off. And it wasn't until probably, and this is again the message, till I was 38, 39, I had my third baby, and 40 when I qualified as a PT. And I realized the importance of of resistance training. But actually, I didn't realize it quite then, because I wasn't perimenopausal. And it wasn't until the symptoms were so crippling, I had to change what I was doing. But I guess like stats wise, if we, it is, you just say to the kids, if you do that, this will happen. They never, we think we're invincible. We never think it's going to happen to us. But I have osteopenia in both of my hips.
Right.
And when I got that diagnosis from having a DEXA scan, I was really shocked. But the questions they asked me were things that I had done in my 30s. Did you drink? Yes. Did you take drugs? Maybe.
Well, doesn't everybody?
Did you smoke? But did you have disordered eating?
Yeah.
Coffee? Like all of these things. And our bone density does peak at the age of 30. So the reality and the science behind it is that it's everything we do up until the age of 30 really counts, because from the age of 30, sadly, our bones are breaking down at a bigger rate than we're building them up. And then sort of the other stat on the muscle mass, but I want us to be really careful about how we interpret that, is that our muscle mass can decrease at a rate of 3 to 5% per year after the age of 35. So what we should be looking is obviously that the maintenance of bone health, and then the maintenance of muscle mass, rather than sort of we're going to lose it, because I think then that's such a negative kind of thing, and people are like, oh, well, I'm not going to bother. But maintain what you have and build it.
And it's not I don't care what kind of like branding somebody shoved in front of your face that says calcium, bone health. Okay, it's not that simple. And there's a lot of different factors at play. And actually, if you build your muscle, that in turn builds a strong bone as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is why resistance training is so important. It's for independent living and everything else. Just, carrying the shopping in, whatever it might be, just getting through life, playing with your grandkids, whatever. But I don't like sometimes a lot of the products that I see which are labeled bone health or this and the other, because people are so susceptible to.
No, I mean, vitamin D is definitely something
absolutely.
that I would say for women to add. But like coming to that muscle, and I always forget this when I'm slightly put on the spot, but actually, it's the largest organ in the body. It is there for protein synthesis, balance, insulin resistant. It balances your hormones, longevity, insulin resistance. Like if we could just keep labeling all the things that muscle helps us with, we kind of all need to just
And if you are interested in losing weight, the more living tissue, therefore muscle you have, the more you are going to burn at rest. And let's be honest, you burn the most calories when you start doing nothing.
Yeah.
So the more muscle that you have, you are burning more every day.
I love that you point that out, because again, I think people have to really reframe that. And that's one of the things I'm always like, people are monitoring. I mean, don't get me started on the monitoring. We could be here all day. But, if you're not monitoring your steps or monitoring your glucose, whether some, on your phone or on a scale, like we have to stop kind of looking at that. And I think people become so obsessed with like looking at watches and how many calories they've burnt to earn what they can then have. And they're not a really good measure. I'll never forget once I drove to Wales for an event, and I had my watch on, and I had sat in the car pretty much for like a 6-hour journey, yet somehow I've done 8,000 steps. And it's obviously because I'm on the wheel and it's moving. So therefore, and then I'd burnt, by default, it told me that I'd burnt a certain amount of calories. And so we rely, I think, too much on things to measure what we should then be allowed to do. And what I really want to empower and educate women to listen to their bodies and be intuitive. What feels right? What feels wrong? What is your normal? Like, we also have to start kind of tracking these things, because, you know, we don't want to blame everything necessarily on menopause or perimenopause or whatever. Like, what is your normal? But the more things we add to measure, the more we're taking away our own ownership.
Correct. This is the whole reason I got rid of the Whoop. Because I got the Whoop, and like my friend was like, oh, you want to see the data on it, Elle-Sera? It's amazing, it's amazing. So we all got a Whoop, right? Amazing, great. So we're all whooping around. And then it was paralysis by analysis. My partner managed to get 8 hours sleep, even though, because I'm up with the baby all night. And it kept, so we were in a leaderboard, all three of us. And I was always the last one, because I was up with the baby 4 times a night, because she was like, at this point, 3 months old. And I was like, well, God, fuck you, Wook. I'm not arsed, because there's nothing I can do about it. But I'm supposed to leave her crying so I can carry on with my
I can win the sleep off.
Exactly. And it became like that. And then you've got, the other thing that annoys me is you've got people like podcasters, they're always men. And I always think, who's looking after your children then? Because it's amazing that you can have this morning routine where you get up, do a bit of meditation, do your daily sunlight or whatever. And I'm like, show me a woman who's doing that, who's got children and who's got a full-time job, looking after the house. And this is why I love you and your brand, your Instagram page, because you have all those things. So whose word am I going to listen to? Some guy who hasn't got kids who's trying to tell me how to run my morning? Yeah, or just leave my daughter sat in a wet nappy while I go and do my meditation? Or am I going to listen to somebody who's really killing it? The mother who's looking after the house, the partner, the kids, and everything else. And she's the one I'm listening to, and that is you.
Yeah.
So I can really relate to this.
And it's not seamless, right, as well. Yeah. Like, I will be very honest and have my, you know, breakdowns. And actually, I know as we were kind of coming in here, I was like, right, so this morning I had to drop so-and-so there. I've had to like call on someone to pick somebody up, like totally juggling it. And, you know, it isn't perfect. And I drop balls, but as long as I try not to drop the important balls, which actually are the family, you know, and I can try and be there for them, then that's really important. But I do think as women, we are pulled from pillar to post. We are the glue, I often say, that holds the family together. And I think that's where women really struggle, again, when they come into the perimenopause phase. And I certainly know that was like my own story, was I did not recognize myself. I was so low. Like I didn't want this to be the best it got. And that turned into me sort of shouting at everybody, because I felt the pressure to just kind of deliver on all fronts. And then, you know, you blame everyone around you, and it's like, it's not their fault. You know, I get it.
Well, it kind of is. I actually would say it kind of is. You could help me a bit more around the house. You could actually, why is it on me to remember that we haven't got toilet roll and we haven't got this and we haven't got that? Why is it on me to do that?
Yeah.
You have not gotten them up in the morning because I didn't set the alarm. Sorry, it was on me to do that. It's like, you're grown adults, you know, like, maybe not the kids, but definitely if they're over the age of 14, they definitely can look after themselves.
That doesn't seem to get much better.
But it's difficult, and I totally get it. And that's why I sometimes, and it's always men pontificating on Instagram on these reels, telling me how I should be living like my life like Huberman. And I'm like, shut up, mate. You don't live in my shoes. Yeah. Wouldn't that be perfect if I didn't have a daughter to look after and everything else I need to look after? And I'm not moaning about it. I'm just saying, you're not the one I should be tuning into. And I think a lot of women are trying to tune into these men sometimes, and they're thinking, they're failing at it, but actually, no, you tuned into the wrong person.
Yeah, and I think there's a really good thing is that we don't all have the same 24 hours in a day, and I think that's really important, but it is how we use them. And I think what I see from a lot of people, again, that I work with is I can't necessarily get up earlier. I get that, or I can't, and I can't. There's an awful lot of I can'ts. And actually, we just have to slightly change the language, because I can pretty much guarantee that somewhere in the day, the person that can't has maybe spent a good 25 minutes mindlessly scrolling somewhere on some kind of social media, or let it be said, you know, watched, you know, a Netflix documentary or a Netflix drama that's out there. I totally appreciate that we should allow time to have the Netflix drama and to have that. But actually, if it comes to it and you are that person perhaps juggling 2 jobs, you might be a single mum. Like, we have to take into account that everybody's got like different strains. You know, I was telling you before, I have a son that has a rare genetic lung condition, PCD. We have to do pretty much 90 minutes of physio every day. I have to factor that into my day amongst everything I'm doing. So it's not easy, but we work out a routine of how that can work. And if it doesn't on one day, that is okay. But just to always try and carve out 25 minutes for you, if you possibly can. If that means giving your child their own 25 minutes to scroll mindlessly,
watch
on
a bit of Miss Rachel for me.
yeah, or watch TV,
Yeah.
then so be it. It doesn't make you a bad parent. And I think that again is the other hard thing, is because, you know, social media isn't that great, or, you know, people sort of maybe TV, you know, shouldn't be watching this or shouldn't be watching that. We then as parents go, oh my God, I don't want them to do that, so I can't do that. But that's okay. Like, you have to have that time for yourself in order for you to be the best possible version of yourself and to be there for your family. Like, I would much rather my kids had 25 minutes scrolling randomly on utter crap, obviously, as long as they weren't watching anything that they shouldn't be. And I get that 25 minutes for myself, because I'm a much nicer person if I get that time.
Absolutely. And then you're better. Otherwise, you're just irritable. I get it. I really do get it. And I'm someone pre-family life. I mean, I was so selfish, really. You know, I had so much time on my hands. I would literally spend myself like grooming myself day in, day out, nails, hair. I had so much time to do my makeup, just loads of time. And now it's like military operation. Do you know what I mean? To get 10 minutes where Grace is not rummaging in the bathroom trying to find a razor blade, you know, because I'm like, shit, you know what I mean? Whatever.
Yeah.
It's just, but I wouldn't change it. Like, I'm moaning, but yes, I wouldn't change it.
No, and like every life stage comes with their
and it'll
own
be over soon.
thing. Well, it will, but you know, then there'll be another challenge. Like, and that's the other thing I think. We often think, and this isn't like doom and gloom at all, that each life stage as they get older will get easier. But you know, it doesn't. And as a parent, as a mum, as a dad, although I don't necessarily think that dads worry quite as much as mums. That's not all dads, just to, you know, put that out there. You know, we worry about every life stage that kind of comes along, and, you know, the tantrums, or, you know, my eldest is learning to drive. That terrifies me.
Yeah.
You know, my daughter is gorgeous and 14, and that terrifies me.
Yeah.
But they're good kids, and we can only be there as parents and support them and try and let them go. It's hard.
It is. So let's talk about owning your menopause. So this is an app. It started as an app, did it?
Yep.
Yeah.
It did. Yeah. So the app started last year. And that was a kind of working process as well. I started doing different things to work out what was what. I'd actually started, I guess, the sort of whole thing doing free workouts on Instagram.
Yeah.
And actually was called Hit for Life.
Right.
Back at the beginning, because I thought HIT was like the thing to do.
Yeah.
When I realised it was actually like killing me and putting my body into stress, changed it just to my name. And and then just worked out what it was I needed to do to thrive. And I was like, right, I want to share this with other women. So by a few trials and error, I came across this wonderful company who helped me create this app. So a monthly subscription. We have well over 1,000 women, and there are live workouts on a Monday, Tuesday. Well, in fact, live workout Monday to Friday, something live every day. And that is all about strength training. So we do HIT once a week, because there is a space for that type of training alongside the strength training. It is important that we add other disciplines.
Yeah, like mobility, yoga.
There's yoga. Yeah, there's Pilates. There's actually, we even have face yoga.
Face yoga. Oh, like face gym.
Face gym on a Sunday. So kind of what I hope it's the sort of the thing that helps every woman manage her menopause holistically. And then through that, I got the opportunity to write the book, which has been extraordinarily well received. And I know we'll come onto it. And I think the reason it's been so well received is because what I want the app to be and what I want the book to be is for every single woman, regardless of her menopause or HRT status. It has been brilliant to see the rise of conversations around menopause and HRT. But for a lot of women, they can't take it. They might not want to take it. We need to make sure that we are really inclusive of everybody. And that is what I hope the book does, is it gives people an insight into what they can do, much like what you offer, holistically to manage their menopause. Look, if they need HRT because their symptoms are so debilitating, no woman should suffer. But HRT is not the magic fix. It is not a silver bullet, and it wasn't for me. And that's where this has kind of been born out from. It was like, what did I do to thrive? How do I not live the way I'm living? And as I said, taken the HRT and not much changed.
Really? So, lifestyle is so important. And if you didn't care about your lifestyle before menopause, you definitely need to care about it after, while you're going through it, that transitional period, because you've got to be optimizing on all cylinders, because sleep gets more difficult. Yep. So you've got to try and, I always send a little bit of a sleep protocol to some of our customers sometimes. I'm like, it's about winding down at the end of the day, take a hot bath, that'll create a cooling into the body that should help you go to sleep. Loads of different things. I think there's about 19 different points on it that can help. But again, it's, reduce alcohol, reduce caffeine at times. Don't be eating processed junk.
No, it's so funny, because actually that is the one thing that I think is really hard for a lot of women navigating this life stage. I think we go through this culture of sort of the mummy wine culture where, we've been stressed, we've had kids, it's 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, it's wind down time, we have a glass of wine. And then actually almost just as we're coming into sort of this second phase of our lives and the kids are sort of older and they're, leaving the nest, and you think, right, this is it, this is my time, the menopause does hit. And again, I think sadly, I don't know whether it's that brain thing or that trigger, a lot of women do reach for alcohol. And I'll be totally honest, that's where I was. I think, again, my dad got his cancer diagnosis kind of when I started to take my HRT, and I definitely was drinking way too much and making, as you say, terrible food choices the next day. I was still doing HIIT.
But you just can't help it because your hormones are going crazy and it's just like getting that, your blood sugar's all over the show. So you just reach in for starchy carbs, processed crap. When I have drunk, that's exactly how I feel. Like there's nothing better than a McDonald's. Yeah. It's just that, ugh. But it's so hard to make good food choices if you've got a hangover.
Yeah. No, it is. And it's sort of that thing where, you then take a woman and you're like, if you want to thrive, these are the kind of little things you need to implement. And actually, like in the book, there is a 30-day plan. And within that plan, what I'm asking people to do is plan their meals, plan ahead, and to try and remove or drink less for the 30 days and see, as you quite rightly say, how it impacts your sleep, how it impacts your mood, how does it impact your energy, like all of these things. And those are probably like the main 3 things that women really struggle with, right? And actually joint aches and pains, alcohol with the sugar, it's an inflammatory. So, give yourself the opportunity to thrive by doing something for 30 days, by giving it a go and seeing how you feel at the end. And it doesn't have to be for life. I mean, hopefully it is. That is the aim of the book, is that actually these are sustainable, achievable lifestyle changes that you can make. And if after you've done the plan, you're still experiencing aches and pains, see what else there is that you could add to help you manage those symptoms.
And it's also that compound effect, if you started doing that at 40, let's say. Apologies for interrupting this podcast, but I need to ask a favour. If you're enjoying this podcast so far, then please hit that subscribe button right now. I'll be straight up and honest that I want to see this podcast grow and flourish into something that I'm really proud of. And the only way that I can do that is with your help. So if you've ever learned anything useful from these conversations, then please return the favour by liking, rating, subscribing, and maybe even sharing it with your friends. Thanks very much. Let's get back to the episode. My God, look at where you'd be at 60. But if you start compounding in the wrong direction, it's like with anything, if you make bad financial choices when you're 40, it's going to impact you at 60. But if you made really good financial choices and they're compounded, you're going to be a lot wealthier at 60 than you were at 40.
Yeah.
And it's a no-brainer, but it's very difficult because people have loads of demands on their time and they're just like, well, I know a lot of my friends equate getting pissed with having a load of fun. For me, it's the opposite because I feel so bad the next day and I just cut out drinking completely. Yes, does that make me quote unquote boring?
I can't imagine you ever being boring.
It means I'm less stimulated by other people's conversations who are drinking.
Yeah.
So I actually get more bored when I'm around people drinking. Find myself, I can't listen to it because they've repeated themselves like 6 times over and over, and the volume of them is a bit. So I'm like, I've got to go. Do you know what I mean?
I'm out of here.
Yeah.
But I think that the problem is that alcohol is something that has become very much ingrained in part of society. Everyone says it is the only drug that people don't sort of say, why are you not drinking?
Why are you not drinking?
Or you're boring. So for me, that was one of the biggest changes I made. And that then enabled me to actually look at how we should be moving our body and what we should be, eating. And protein, again, so underrated. We don't talk about the importance of that enough. And it was really funny because when I read the audio for my book, I had sort of forgotten that actually I'd gone into, good fats as well. Again, really good for balancing your hormones. And I think we do this thing where we focus so much on the trend. So protein, really important. We know that. The gut health, again, which is incredibly important. I would never take that away from anyone. Gut brain, really important. But we've done this sort of the protein, the gut health, the insulin, balancing our sugars. We're forgetting about a lot of the other food groups that are really important. The good carbs that are going to help fuel our workouts, help us, release that insulin, glycogen. It is the petrol to your car, and then good fats as well. I think we demonize so many different food groups that often women coming into this life stage, and I'm sure you see it all the time, forget how to eat. We've forgotten what we need to do to nourish our body.
I think that's bang on. This is why I'm really against Slimming World, which demonizes an avocado. I love avocado. I live off it. I've just had it now. So going back to your point then, 2 things I wanted to pick up on. So bone density is so important. What can we do for bone density? What can we do to make our bones as strong as possible?
Yeah, well, it is. So it's lifting the weights, making sure that we're lifting weights, making sure that we're doing, impact training. I do often get asked, does Pilates kind of count? It does because it's your body weight, but we really want to be overloading in order to help build stronger bone, which in turn, obviously, and build muscle. The stronger your muscles, that pulling action, you're working your bones, you're more mobile. That's going to help every single time. Vitamin D, obviously, is a really important...
it's not even a vitamin. It's a steroid hormone. You need it. Yeah. And you've got a receptor on every single cell in your body. That's why we feel better when we're in the sun. We really need it for everything, hormone balancing. Every single system in the body needs vitamin D. And because the sun is a rumour in this country, we need to supplement that. Even the NHS website, which is not up to scratch at all, still recommends that you should be taking vitamin D from the months of October to March.
Yeah. And actually, obviously as our estrogen declines as well, that helps absorb vitamin D. So there's less absorption of the vitamin D. So that again is massively important. And then obviously you need your calcium with your vitamin D. So that's the problem. I think a lot of women are in terms of cheese, they're sort of fearful of cheese because it's a fat, but it's, really good calcium.
Yeah.
Yogurt, Greek yogurt, really good protein, really good calcium. We need to, again, stop the food phobias. So in terms of your bone health, leafy greens, those lovely leafy greens, and obviously protein as well, which will help, build and repair and recover the muscle after a workout. So there's not a lot to take away from that really, other than, move your body every day, get your vitamin D, as you've said.
Yeah.
Protein again to help. Nuts. Again, nuts are demonized, aren't they? If you eat too many nuts.
Well, it's because it's so easy. I lived on a desert island and I was on the beach and I found a beach almond and it was about that big. Inside it, right, and it took me 40 minutes to get it open. And that was ripping it apart, whatever. Inside it is that. High calories because it was high effort. Now, it would have taken me 2 hours to open 5 of them.
Yeah.
So I can't overeat them. But now we've got manufacturers who do that for us. It's so easy to overeat on nuts. So, I mean, a handful. So I wouldn't touch a nut. I mean, I would touch a nut. That's crazy. But I would never buy them because I would eat the whole packet.
I often do. But do you know what? I think it's that thing, and that takes us a little bit further back in the conversation. It's where we begin to eat sort of intuitively. And because of the exercise that I do, and I am constantly moving, I am forgiving of myself if I have 3 handfuls of nuts.
Oh yeah,
because
that's absolutely I know people who will have like loads of peanut butter, then they'll have like a whole bowl of nuts.
Yeah,
they go over the top. So and you don't realize how many calories that would actually be.
It's the salty nuts.
Well, exactly.
Where is this conversation going?
No, I know. Yeah. Okay, so the significance of protein can't be overestimated, in my opinion. 3 times a day. Whether that's, Greek yogurt in the morning, great protein. I'd even put a bit of collagen in there if you want, because that can be great protein. It's also good for your joints, skin, hair, and nails, depending on which type or brand you want to take. I personally start my day a bit like that, or I have eggs. This morning I had eggs and avocado.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, with feta cheese on top. Lovely.
Yeah. And actually, funny thing about protein and the Greek yogurt, going to the Greek yogurt. So the estimate on protein intake is, funny enough, if you Google it, it's 1 to 1.2 grams per kilogram of body weight. And actually, I would say for anyone who is really active, you could go a little bit higher than that. But again, making sure you've got it, yes, as you say, 3 times a day. The one thing I find, if I have Greek yogurt in the morning, I am a really sweet-toothed person. If I have Greek yogurt, my brain kind of goes, oh, it's a sweet day today.
Oh, you're craving
and
it
it just
all day.
Takes me down that path of I want to have sweet food. Whereas this morning I've had lovely eggs, sourdough, avocado. I'm really full.
Yeah.
And there's no kind of, I need a sweet fix. And I know that I can then eat well. And again, I think when we talk about the balancing our blood sugars and we talk about these monitors, it's working out what works for you as an individual. And I know that's what you're passionate about. Like, not every one person is the same. And for somebody else who has Greek yogurt, that's totally fine. They might be able to do that, but I literally can't. I know that if I have like even the biggest bowl of Greek yogurt, I'm going to be hungry 2 hours later. And it doesn't do the trick for me.
It probably hasn't got the satiety levels that like eggs and avocado has in it either. So I don't know why I'm saying I would have Greek yogurt every morning, because it's once in a blue moon. I actually fast most days till about 1 o'clock anyway. Then I will eat something, and then my Greek yogurt is actually saved for the evening. So it's like a dessert.
Do you know, I love Greek yogurt with like frozen blueberries in.
Yeah. So I put like raspberries, blueberries, and a little bit of maple syrup with cinnamon. And that is an elite level snack, if you ask me.
And that's better than like the chocolate, because I think again that's a lot of the things I hear is, I've eaten, but then I'm craving that
sweetness.
thing.
Yeah, my partner is that.
Yeah.
And if I don't make him a Farg Greek yogurt, then he's going to be hands in dairy milk.
Do you know what you could make him? Does he like dates?
Look, yeah. So we have a whole box of dates from Costco in the fridge as well.
So you want to go make? Does he like peanut butter?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a really good snack. Be mindful of whether you put them in the freezer or the fridge. I do like them in the freezer, but you might find yourself at the dentist like with the tooth inside it. But cut the medjool date down the middle, whack in some peanut butter, melt some dark chocolate, and then put the milk chocolate all over the dark chocolate, all over the date. Put it in the fridge on a plate.
Tray, yeah.
And then you've got it's like the healthy version of a chocolate eclair.
Yeah.
But do not eat too many.
Well, I was going to say, I think with regular medjool dates that haven't got chocolate or peanut butter in, I think you can have about 3 before your insulin will really start to spike, because it's quite low GI.
Or you just get a bit windy.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I was like eating them like they're going out of fashion when I was pregnant. I was like ripening that cervix, but she was still 2 weeks late and I was still 48 hours in labour. She wasn't coming out. But dates are an unsung hero.
Yeah.
I mean, I had workmen round at my house. I was like, do you want a date? And they were like, what's that? I was like, well, try it.
Especially with the chocolate and the peanut butter. It is good. So that's a good like little sweet treat. But again, it's, I think if you haven't eaten well with your meal, you do crave the sweet stuff. Like, so it's just making sure, and don't be afraid to eat like that big plate of food that your body, you know, wants you to, because then it will keep you full for 4 to 5 hours, which is kind of what we want to do, rather than, again, like that mindless snacking. I think I speak to a lot of women who, funny enough, going back to what you said about fasting until 12, I often find I work with women who do that, but then that kind of opens the floodgates to like a grazing afternoon.
Like then they'll eat a lot more.
Yeah. So what I try to encourage people to do is to have breakfast like around about 10. So last meal around about 7 o'clock at night, breakfast around about 10ish. They've had a lovely rest and digest, a little sort of fasting window. But again, it depends. Like some people wake up in the morning and they need to eat, right? They've got such low blood sugar. They have to eat, otherwise they get really lightheaded. So again, like it's an individual choice. But to try and have like 3 eating windows of sort of 10 to, 6, 7 o'clock, I think is really good. And I think a lot of the women I work with, their bodies respond really, really well to that.
I'm just thinking what I do now. What time did I eat today? After my hair appointment, 12 o'clock I broke my fast at 12 o'clock, and then I won't eat probably till 6 o'clock tonight, and that'll be it.
Okay.
But that works for me.
That works for you.
And I managed to get kind of like everything I need into that window.
Yeah.
I'll have I think having a rump steak tonight. And I'll probably have it with sweet potato, loads of leafy greens, something like, and a corn on the cob, which I eat while I'm cooking.
Who does the cooking?
Last night it was Danny, which was once in a blue moon. I was stunned, by his effort level. But usually it's me.
Yeah. Just another thing to add to your day.
Yeah, and then go shopping for it and everything else, and then try and keep my child alive while I'm doing it around hot pans. Yeah, absolutely.
Love it.
So you've got so many women on the app. What is like, you must see the same kind of issues coming up for them a lot. What is like the number one biggest issue that people come to you with?
I think the number one biggest concern for women is weight gain, in particularly around the middle. But
do you know, I read something the other day, right? So I've argued with my PT about this for 10 months now. I said, you know what? Pretty sure your skeleton moves. It doesn't. I went, no, I think it does. Because why is it that women over 40, 50, 60 are a lot wider than their 20-year-old counterparts? It's got to. Like, I'm not having it, it's not. He was like, no, it doesn't. I was like, well, it moves in pregnancy. And I think it moves again because women are a lot wider and it's not just weight gain. I've spent ages looking at this and I was vindicated the other day because the studies just come out to say that it does. Your skeleton, your pelvis widens.
Yep.
And I was like, sent it to him. I was like, there you go, rest my case.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, right? Because obviously your pelvis widens, to make space for babies. I'm not entirely sure, don't know the science behind it.
No.
Why it would later on. But my body shape has completely and utterly changed in 6 years. And I think, for women, it is that it goes back to the beginning and that sort of that aesthetic thing and that gain around your middle. What we have to be really mindful is we can't target fat loss. So, when people come to me and say, I want to lose the middle, or I want to get rid of this, that's great, but it's your whole body approach.
Exactly.
You can't say anything.
It will start coming like that way. Exactly.
Well, some people go that way.
Yeah.
I always used to be that way. So I'd be my double chin would go first. Then my boobs are flat, so just get flatter.
Yeah.
And that way it never sort of went to the bum where I wanted it to, but there we go.
Exactly. But I almost think it should be liberating. When I saw that, I was like, well, there you go, ladies. It's not just that you've put on fat. It's that maybe your skeleton is moving as well. I mean, we're talking like tiny bits over time. But the fact that you are getting wider and there is nothing you can do about that. That is your skeleton.
Yeah.
We cannot do anything about that. So relax. It's going to happen to everyone. I almost feel like just relax. Let's do what we can.
Do you know what? I think that kind of is like the crux to most of these things is I think we have to accept our changing bodies. And also genetics play a massive factor. Some women will not change at all. And others of us might change, quite dramatically. But it's accepting your changing body. And I think that was one of the most liberating moments of my midlife was actually my body's incredible. It's had 3 children. It's had 4 miscarriages, but it got me through those 4 miscarriages. It's had 3 cesareans. It's got back from those. It has fought disease. It has kind of, it's done an amazing job. Why do I keep wanting to change it?
Yeah.
What am I aiming for here? And actually, when I started to look at it like that, to be grateful to be aging, to be grateful that it's moving, and to be grateful that it has done all of that for me, I now need to give it back something which is to help it keep me strong for as long as I possibly can. And I think that when women come and they are, it is that middle, or it is, dare I say it, like bingoings. I hate the sort of terminology, muffin top bingoings. I hate all of that. We said this already, like moving, lifting weights, eating well. Your weight loss or your weight maintenance will be a byproduct of all of that. Don't focus on that, because equally it becomes so unsustainable and miserable if you're always, again, chasing that number on a scale or trying to fit into that size 10 and you're not getting there. You quit.
Well, I'd had this conversation 30 minutes before I came in here with a friend of mine who is freaked out because she slept on the scale and it's gone up slightly. I was like, you've just come back from holiday, relax, shut up, go for a walk. Anyway, trying to make her feel positively encouraged in the best possible way in my brutish style. But anyway, I was like, focus on performance, please. Focus on lifting more weight. Focus on going to the gym one extra time.
Yeah.
But for me, that's all I focus on now. And all my goals I've set for the next 3 months are all pressing more, pulling more. I'm not focused on the weight on the scale, because
functional movement.
Correct. It's a byproduct. That will be a byproduct of, and I'll tell you what, I'll look better. I'll look more cut, defined. Biceps, triceps will be better if I can lift heavier weight. It's a given.
Yeah, and also your lovely friend who got on the scales, that isn't actual fat or weight. And that's the other thing. I kind of keep saying to women, your body is a 365-day a year project. It is not seasonal. You're not working out for an outfit, for a holiday, a bikini body, all of that sort of stuff. We need to start taking kind of care of it every day. And actually have, again, women that come and go, I'm going on holiday, so I want to do
classic,
that. And then they totally starve themselves to get whatever it is. And then they go on holiday and they have that first meal because they think that they've lost weight. They haven't, because it's not been sustainable. They have all the things that they've not been allowing themselves to have. And they can't understand why the next day they're constipated, bloated, feeling tired on the first day of their holiday. And then they have a miserable holiday because of that. But because they've kind of gone, okay, well, I'm on holiday now, I'll do what I normally do. What you want what I would love women to try and do is to just find somewhere where you do what you do at home and you go on holiday and you still do that on holiday. You just carry it through.
I was just about to say that. Two things popped to my mind then. One, they need to change their holiday, right? What does your holiday look like? Because maybe you start going on different holidays that look a little bit different. Maybe, it's not just about an all-inclusive and how pissed can we get and how brown can I get and how much crap literature I read while I've been there. That's all fantastic too. But can you go somewhere that's got a gym in the hotel, maybe has classes while you're there, so that's you don't even need to think about it. These are the holidays I book these days. So it's got yoga classes, that's got abs and bums or whatever classes in it, or it's got a great gym. And not to sound like self-righteous or something, but if there is a bit of movement, then you will feel better and you won't be in as bad a position when you come back.
Yeah.
Because it is got to be a lifestyle thing. And the other thing I think is the biggest difference between success and failure is the people you surround yourself with. So if these ladies are like, and he's gone on a diet for a holiday, and then the people she hangs around with are the gin o'clock, let's go to Costa Coffee and go and get a cake and this, that, and the other kind of crowd. That's why I think your community is so important, because actually it will then, success breeds success. If you hang around with 5 very fit women and you are the 6th, guess what? You're just going to become fit as a byproduct. If you got a group of ladies who did do yoga, who kind of adopted a new lifestyle, reduced the caffeine, reduced the alcohol, and you found socializing by going to a class together and a lovely brunch after it, rather than sitting in a pub, success will look a lot different.
Yeah. And equally, it's important, I think, to get to the point where you're strong enough to maybe be in those situations. So I was completely sober. I don't really drink at all now, but for 20 months. And the amount of, I remember at a friend's 50th, someone coming up going, smell it, do you want it? And I was like, no. And like 5 minutes later, you just see people dropping like flies. Like, it doesn't happen immediately, and that strength didn't come immediately. Like, it was a really change is challenging, right? And it was a good 3 to 4 months before I really felt probably confident enough to put myself back in that social circle, because I knew that I didn't want to go back to my old ways. I knew that these changes were so positive. And what I often say to people is that if the people around you are questioning you and saying you're boring or saying, oh, go on, just have fun, they're actually almost jealous that they can't do or be where you are. Like, and I think a lot of that sober, sometimes the sort of the healthy eating thing, people can be a dampener on it because they can't do it themselves. And I think that was another thing that gave me that inner strength to kind of carry on, was that actually people normally diss something because they want to be doing it. People badmouth people because they want to perhaps do what they're doing. It often comes from that sort of space.
I've never met anyone who's gone into sobriety or given up drinking for a sustained period of time and said, oh, well, that wasn't worth it. Yeah. I've never met one person. I have known people that have built multi-million-pound businesses on the back of being sober because they can think differently. I know people who have lost loads of weight, got a new partner, got the confidence to do something else. And I'm not joking. I totally know how you feel, because I just think I have a superpower that you do not, and I am superior to you. That is kind of how I think, because I don't need that.
Yeah, but it's also the end of the night.
They get messy and they look like shit.
Yeah.
And that used to be me. I'm not sat here like I was they used to call me the swan with the broken neck, because, and I'm talking, I go out at 9 and I'll be back home at 11 because I was so pissed so quick. Because I never used to eat anything in the day because I wanted to look thin in my dress, whatever. And I would be like that in a bar somewhere, like a mess. I'd go out looking like $1 million and come home looking like a tenner. It was ridiculous. And I thought, what am I actually achieving here? And as soon as I gave up, life went like that.
Yeah. It is fun. I think it gives you, I'll never forget putting my daughter to bed once. Actually, it was quite funny with the sober thing. And she said that I was more present. And that was like, wow,
yeah, I've never met anybody who's had a downside of not drinking.
Well, although my son, who at the time was quite into Fortnite, was like, yeah, this is just a little bit annoying. I was like, well, I guess because now you know how long I'm gaming for. Because actually you become aware of what everybody else is doing around you. And I think the other thing that it allowed me to do is to really face why alcohol was so important to me. And it obviously goes back to, childhood traumas or things that had happened. It very much was a crutch, and it was dulling the noise of the things that I didn't really like. And I have got ADHD. And again, if someone has ADHD, they are sort of thrill seekers. It's that dopamine. So you have a very addictive personality. And so by cutting out alcohol, it actually allowed me to get a hold of kind of that binge, the whole binge thing that I did really with everything in my life. Like I'm an all or nothing person. But I've actually been able to take stock and kind of apply myself properly to the things, rather than having like one glass of wine or two and then thinking, I'm going to do all of these things. And you wake up the next morning and you might have sent a few texts or done some, things that you thought were really good. None of that's happening anymore. And like you say, I feel since that moment, not only have I managed my menopause better, but my business has kind of gone from
thriving,
strength to strength, and I feel closer to my family.
100%. I can't see any downside to it. And I think there is actually especially with the younger generations, they're just not as interested in drinking. And I see across hospitality now, low alcohol, no alcohol drinks are booming.
Yeah.
And it's such a great industry to get into. I know a girl who's just started a brand, and I know she's stocked in every supermarket now. Because it's becoming, you'd never heard of that 20 years ago. Yeah. I think my generation, millennials, was probably the last ones that were really into like binge drinking, going on holiday to Magaluf and getting blackout drunk. Yeah. I used to be in uni going on Carnage and whatever.
That's not even go back there.
Yeah, exactly. So
I don't remember it.
Exactly, neither did I, and you make stupid decisions. But the younger generation, they're just not as into that anymore.
Yeah, I hope so. I really do hope so, because that was actually funny enough. I went to I went to Joe Wiley's 90s anthems a couple of weeks ago, and I obviously didn't drink. Should I be saying this? I came back and I had a few teens at my house. They are old enough, having a couple of drinks. And it was interesting because what I want them to see is that you can go out and have a really good night and you can dance and it's fun without having a drink. And actually for me, that was the really important thing for my kids to see. And I'm not saying that I wasn't surrounded by that, but actually my family were, my mum gave up drinking when she was 40, but I think all of our families were like that. It was sort of the thing, whereas now, we don't place so much emphasis on it. But that was one of my, one of the biggest defining things, kind of navigating menopause was that.
I don't think it's a bad thing, really. So you've written the book, which is, as you said before, it's been so well received. Would you ever do another one? Did you find the experience cathartic? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I would do another one.
Yeah.
What I really enjoyed about the book was that it was all in my head, and it's sort of, the Instagram posts that I've done, and having the opportunity to put it down to give women hope was kind of what I really wanted. So I didn't want it to be too scientific. I didn't want it to be terrifying. And that is a great thing. Like, I've had people say, I've read it in 2 days. I'm now doing the program. So there's a QR code. You scan it, it takes you out of the book to 2 30-day programs. Didn't think that through when they asked me to write the book, because that meant doing 60 workouts, but that's fine. Everyone is saying, like, they feel hopeful when they read it. They feel like this isn't the end, this is the beginning. And those are the kind of conversations that I really want women to be having, regardless of their menopause or HRT status, is that what you do in that book is going to help you regardless of what you choose to do outside of that, by eating well, by moving, by lifting weights. There's 3 incredible breathwork sessions in the book as well, that Anna Goff does. So it's not like 30 days of intense workouts either. Like day 1, I think in the beginner's course, is body weight, and then day 2 is stretch and mobility, which we've touched on. Day 3 a workout, day 4 abs and core. So it's also go outside, try and get, I think, the new research is that 4,000 steps is enough to offset the likelihood of chronic disease. And how attainable does that sound? When you realize 10,000 steps, you're there with your watch going. I can do that
before 10 o'clock in the morning, just rushing around the house.
There you are. So you're smashing it. So it is. So it's like 4,000 steps and some movement. And like really just trying to, get women to reframe it. Like I keep saying, just to know how amazing we are. I think we give ourselves a really hard time. And I know that that's what I did. And I want to just try and stop women from that, and also like future generations. For sure. And making the future menopause experience better for everybody. Completely.
What is next for you? If I'm you, I think what I would like to see from you is, and we touched on it, I think you should do a retreat, a holiday retreat abroad, because you've got the community of women there that would definitely come. And it's like a week where you teach this plan in real life. And it's that they can get away, have a lovely break with like-minded women and bring the community, to them, do it in a beautiful place. I think that would be amazing.
You had me at retreat, but that was because I was going on it.
For sure.
I would love to do that. I would. And, maybe next year, I would like to retreat. I love that in real life experience. And I actually had the fortune sort of last week of doing an in-person thing. And tomorrow I've got something in person. And I love that, because I think that's where women genuinely feel supported. It's very difficult online. But let's talk about that.
Yeah, definitely. Fabulous. Okay, well, Kate, thanks so much for coming up to Liverpool. I know how hard it is to juggle 3 children, home life and everything. So the fact that you've come up here today, I really, really appreciate it. Your book is called Owning Your Menopause, Fitter, Calmer, Stronger in 30 Days. It's amazing. Please go and get it or listen to it on audio. Kate reads it herself, which I think is always better. But thank you so much for coming.
No, thank you for the opportunity. I love what you guys do. And so it's a pleasure to be able to talk to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.